I just want to say that this deck isn't for everyone, and I had another insight the other day in relation to this deck, in that it has a lot of, okay, I'm going to warn you that there are some very direct and very blunt language and words used after this sentence that you may not be completely comfortable with, okay? So I use the word masturbation a lot to describe actions that are pointless, that are connecting with no one, producing nothing, and achieve nothing. And the only thing that that particular action which is masturbation like to me is to satisfy yourself. And so in everything that I do, I often ask myself, who am I going to connect with? What am I going to achieve? What am I going to produce? How am I going to contribute to myself and the people around me by what I do or what I say? And if it produces nothing, it connects to no one, it solves nothing, and it only satisfies yourself, whether it is emotionally or intellectually or spiritually, then I consider those kind of actions to be like masturbation. It's either spiritual masturbation, emotional masturbation, intellectual masturbation. And when I use that word, a lot of people cringe. And I have mentioned before in my other video that I worked with sex offenders for a short time, about a couple of years or so. And that seems short in the lifelong span that is, someone's career, I suppose. But it was enough for me to be quite desensitized by the word. But again, like I said in my other video, that is not to say that those words necessarily are bad or inherently bad, because if you take your mind out of the gutter, those words like lingam, for example, lingam in the ancient Indian and Hindu tradition are worshipped as fertility, as the young energy principle of life. And lingam is actually a male organ, it's a male genitalia. And so in the Mary L. Handbook, you hear a lot of words like masturbation, penis, ejaculation, orgasm, and some of you may be tempted to think that those are pornographic, but my definition of pornography, again, I work with sex offenders, remember, and I was a forensic psychologist. I wasn't like a counseling person. I need to be aware of the legal terminology of what pornography is, what it means. Sometimes societal means, or it's very different from the actual. A word can mean one thing, and then I think it's imbued by social conditioning and emotion and perhaps moral outrage, and then it becomes something else. And my understanding of pornography is that it is a craft that is created for the sole aim of heightening your sexual desires. And so I don't see that with the Mary L. Handbook. I see words like masturbate, penis, ejaculation, and orgasm being used to describe cosmic and spiritual phenomenon. And although my first instinct or my knee-jerk reaction, or the aspect of myself that has been socially conditioned to cringe, I have to constantly ask myself throughout my life, because I think I may have told you my ancestry are mixed. So no matter where I go, even in the land of my ancestors, I will be a minority. Even in the land of my birth, I am a minority. In my adopted land, New Zealand, I am a minority. And so for every step of the way, I have to constantly ask myself where I'm coming from and examine myself. It can be paralyzing, but it can be good. What I'm trying to say is that before I react emotionally, I step back. For me, I'm not saying this is for you, I'm just simply sharing with you how I process these things. And so I would step back, I would stop reacting emotionally and look at the words or the phenomenon that I am faced with for what it is, and try to understand it from a different worldview. I have a series, or I am planning on a series, or I have posted a couple of videos, or maybe just one, I can't remember, about translating worldviews. And I'm going to post more on translating worldviews, just looking at different cards, looking at different decks, and looking at different stuff, I guess. Is that ultimately it is about a different lens that you have to try and put and understand the word for what it is, and not so much for what you think it is, but for what you feel it is. So what I wanted to say was that idea of masturbation is the one thing that I use often, because I can't find any other word to describe it. And so if you have to describe that action that I've explained to you, where it achieved nothing, it connect with no one, it solved nothing, it produces nothing other than self-satisfaction, then you please share with me, because I would love to be able to use other word other than masturbation, because it's very hard to use that word in polite company. And I do use it sometimes if I'm passionate enough about a point and I felt the need to drive that point home. And so the other thing, when I read the day 34 reading of the Mary L, it's in my video, is my playlist, is I can't remember which number that video is. I'll put it here somewhere. But that sense of that fire in my belly when I was reading about the tower, especially, I was reading about Gabriel. Was that Gabriel? No, Michael, the angel, the archangel Michael in the Six of Wands, and it was that feeling of that pit in my stomach. The pit of my stomach felt, it churns, it round, and energy build up, and it goes up and up and up, and it goes somewhere at the base of my throat. And I needed to shout. I wanted to shout, but my my social conditioning dictate that I can't shout all alone at home. If I shout, someone might think that I was in danger, I was in trouble. But in the end, I ended up typing those very short sentences on Instagram. Destroy, create, arise, true self. And I wanted to shout it at the top of my lung. And so it feels like that description that Marie White in her book, in a variety of occasions, have described certain cards or a certain kind of, she tried to make her point by using a metaphorical language of orgasm and ejaculation. And so I understand that, and I understand why the lingam is because if you think about it, that sense of building up in one's body and excreting and exploding out, if you think about it, most of such function, and again, if you're more of a delicate person, you don't have to listen to this. You can just stop this video right now and skip, or just don't watch it. But our body function is the other body function that involves the same kind of building up, and then expelling and expressing and letting things out, are all waste related. So I apologize beforehand. These words are not for the faint-hearted. Snot, okay? When you urinate, when you defecate, what else? Crying, maybe. Crying's not quite the same mechanism. Crying doesn't build through the same burning of fire. Crying is a different kind of, in the body, perhaps in the chakra lingo, it comes from a different center of energy in the body. I don't know enough of chakra to be able to talk about it in an accurate way. So the only one that has the same kind of mechanism where things build up in the body, it builds, and then it goes out, that create life, is ejaculation. So when I thought about that, I thought I can understand why the lingam becomes such a power, yang, Y-A-N-G, as opposed to yin, Y-I-N. I don't mean yang as in Y-O-U-N-G, but yin and yang as in, this penetrating, this expressive, the yang, the expressive aspect of life is depicted by the lingam, by the penis, by the orgasm and ejaculation. That is the only burst of energy outside of a human body that is creative, that creates new life, that isn't an expulsion of waste. Do you know what I mean? And so I thought I'd share that with you. So thank you for listening. If you have listened up to here, for some reason I just felt that needs to be said. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.